Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to your daily divine messages from Spirit. Happy Monday and blessings, grand rising to those who are finding this. If you're new to my channel, here comes Mr. Tony Popsicle saying hello. Grandma, Mr. Grandma Tony Popsicle. So, someone's grandmother from the other side, possibly, or spirit totem, animal totem of the cat, is here to give you some messages to cut through, I'm hearing cut to the chase, to cut through to the truth, cut through the BS. We just had our Easter weekend for those who practice or celebrate Easter, and I definitely feel like this weekend was quite the parallel to the energies of Christ conscious awakening. I have always felt really closely resonant with the Easter weekend, with Christ's crucifixion and death and rebirth. I always thought of it as on a spiritual context, like very much around, ego death and conscious awakening. And I felt like this was a very, very timely weekend for that. There was a lot of energy with Saturn, and we're coming into a week where Pluto's going to be a part of these conjunctions, and there's just a lot of fear being released. There's a lot of, transformation that's being had within ourselves. I feel like with the Libra full moon, the karmic contracts are ending, and a lot of masculine energy is being balanced. This is actually usually I pull the cards during our daily divine, but this was actually from Friday's energy check-in and weekend forecast, that it has just been sitting over the weekend in the energies. Personally, when I did during the Friday energy check-in, the energy was so heavy from this phoenix bursting into flames that was occurring up to Friday, and then over the weekend I was in such a deep I almost want to say coma, because I was in such a deep ascension, recalibration and integration from that major phoenix burst, major ego death, that because last week I'd been working a lot on clearing and cleansing and closing leaky energies, you may have heard me talking about. And a lot of it was, around the masculine chakras, the lower chakras of the root of the sacral and the solar plexus. And that's a lot of our physicality, of our physical self, of our safety and security, of our finances, of our abundance, of love, of pleasure, of self-worth. And so clearing, cleansing, healing, and closing those leaks really brought up a lot of raw energy, and that's something that is important to recognize when we are working on our, Kundalini healing. When we're working on our, just healing in general, that means things are going to come up. And there were some dark, like very, very dark shadows that came up that I had to really sit with. I had to really reflect on if I wanted to really allow them to purge and to heal. And it was very uncomfortable. It actually got a little bit scary at one point because it just felt so overwhelming. But I think that when we sit in those emotions and do our best to not judge them, then we can remember that we are still humans. You know, we're still having this human experience. So even though, especially for like those who are more spiritually awakened, you know, it's very easy to have that spiritual ego and be like, oh, I shouldn't be upset. I should never be feeling these feelings. I should never be, I should know better. And that kind of judgment and shame is what keeps us stuck in more ego. Because the truth is we may know the truth. We may, like, we all know the truth, but the truth is also the fact that we like are still learning. We're constantly expanding. We're constantly, you know, evolving. So that means there are parts of us that we are still, that are layering off, that are coming up, that maybe we have not really allowed ourselves to look at, or maybe just have not needed to look at until now. But Saturn is the planet of karma, of responsibility. And Venus and Libra are of balance and reciprocity and divine, you know, your divinity. And so I wanted to go over these cards again because I just haven't been able to, I wanted to be able to talk about this more in a higher state of mind now that I've been able to work through those, you know, deep shadow internal explorations. This actually kind of gave me some Little Mermaid vibes with this Page of Cups here of, you know, like down here under the sea. And then you have the King of Pentacles. I love that the Ace of Cups is underneath that. The King of Pentacles. So it almost gives like this, like, it could be a father-daughter dynamic. It could be a, you know, a parent-child dynamic. It could be a, you know, romantic dynamic. And maybe you feel like you're just in two different worlds, or maybe you feel like one is more on the 3D, you know, of pentacles, of, you know, material life, and one is more of the underworld and more attuned with, you know, Mama Gaia, and, you know, just kind of flowing through life, almost seems like floating through life, right? And maybe it seems like this dynamic can feel, maybe there, you know, that's where, if you're not careful, it can feel like there is an off, out of balance sort, or they can seem to not be able to, how do they come together? Like, I'm literally seeing Ariel falling in love with Eric. I mean, you know? And Little Mermaid was one of my favorite movies growing up. I never understood why. But there's definitely, like, you know, this divine cup that's trying to like pour, this divine love that's trying to pour into this dynamic, this connection, however it may take, however it resonates with you. It could be on multiple different occasions, multiple different scenarios for you. But what I'm seeing is that this weekend, especially with Easter, especially with, you know, the you know, crucifixion and the resurrection, it's like this Christ consciousness is about balancing our forces, balancing the above and below, right? Balancing and reclaiming our energy, our feminine and our masculine, our non-physical and our physical. And this is, you know, what is leading us. This whole weekend was about Like, I don't know. I had a lot of also extreme throat, third eye, and crown chakra activations and awakenings and ascension symptoms. I don't get headaches very much at all. I had a migraine for like 2, 3 days straight where I literally couldn't even get out of bed. Like, I could hardly even stand up for periods, for longer periods, long periods of time. I couldn't eat. Like, it was so intense. I couldn't sleep, but I couldn't stay awake. So it was like, I just felt like there was so much that was moving and clearing. And I found myself trying to go back, and I'm sharing this with you personally because maybe that's something you might have been resonating with too. I'm a very intuitive empath, and so I know that a lot of times when I'm feeling things collective, and we all are, interconnected in ways, but it's sometimes I get a little nervous to talk about my story because that vulnerability makes me feel like I don't know, maybe I don't know. I get nervous about judgment, and that's something I'm releasing. And so, but, I felt myself wanting to revert back to old habits, revert back to numbing mechanisms, revert back to old medications, revert back to, like, if you are someone who has been doing so much internal exploring, if you have been someone that has been trying so hard to heal and cleanse and balance, if you have been someone who's been doing your best with reclaiming your energy, and sometimes it feels like it's just not enough, it's not working, that's okay. Like, remember that ebbs and flows, and the contrast and expansion is all part of conscious awakening. It's just a matter of, I'm hearing radical acceptance, right? Only compare yourself to yourself. And sometimes it's easy to feel like everyone else is doing it. And why is everyone else able to hold on to their shadows without having to let them burst? Why is everyone else able to regulate their emotions? Why is everyone else able to, hold up these kind of jobs and work these kind of hours? And, how come no one else is like breaking down, right? Like, how come everyone else can just numb and act like nothing's wrong, but I can't, right? Like, if that's you, I get it. And that's something that, again, only comparing yourself to yourself, because you are this beautiful hodgepodge of emotion, and we all are. But when you let yourself, Page of Cups, that is of emotion, that is Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio energy, that is the intuitive, the emotional, that is part of the non-physical, part of the feminine energy of our senses. We have to allow ourselves to feel. Not to mention, on Thursday was the last degree of Mars being in Cancer for the last 3 months. I mean, he was like literally at his like wits end, like up to like drowning in his emotions. And those final minutes was like this phoenix bursting into flames. And now Mars is in Leo. We have a lot of fire energy that's happening in the planets. Neptune in Aries, where now the sun is now in Taurus. But we have, Mercury in Aries, Chiron in Aries. But there's still a lot of this, like Aries, Pisces with the North Node in Pisces. There's still a lot of going back, into the axis. Venus will be moving into Aries soon. Back into Aries. Lilith is in Scorpio. Juno is in Sagittarius retrograde. So like there's a lot of fire and water right now. We do have this Earth. Taurus is going to help kind of ground us out. And I think that, again, that was actually when Taurus went into the sun, or the sun went into Taurus right around this time too, around the same time that Mars went into Leo. And it's like, okay, Mars is more comfortable in Leo because there's a lot more, fire, action, passion, that there's movement that can happen instead of having to sit in the feelings, sit in those depths, sit in those shadows. And there has been a lot of deep shadow work. But what that is doing is it's allowing us to tap into our ancient future. It's allowing us to look into the light, the depths of our light codes, the depths of our shadows, the depths of where is it that is still needing to be heard, needing to be understood, needing to be restored. And I love how this internal explorer in the ancient future high priestess, like she looks like how she's, deep in this shadow, hiding, but holding this light, but afraid to be seen because our shadows are the dark feminine energies in us that are so told that having anger and rage is so bad. And it's not that the rage and anger is bad. It's how we respond to it, it's how we react to it, it's how we express it that makes the difference, right? And so when we radically accept our shadow, when we radically accept our feminine, dark feminine rage and anger and hurt and sadness, when we feel those dark emotions, deep emotions, that allows us to actually come into this high priestess of radical acceptance, of taking all of those emotions and feelings and mistakes and learning them and taking them and turning them into wisdom. The fish down here, the yin yang fish speaking telepathically, right? It's like, this story here could be even like if a parent had to, leave a child to work a lot to sustain for them, or for her, I'm seeing with this mermaid, or how Ariel lost her, or gave up her voice, right, to who? Ursula, in order to get her legs so that she could be on in the same world as her love, right? The harmonic flight, that's the twin flame card. And so this could be a story for someone too, of like this journey of awakening to divine love being activated by the soul, seeing yourself, seeing your soul in another is going to activate so much shadow in you. Why? Because it's here to help you heal all of those wounds so that you can come into harmony, come into union, come into your highest self, balanced forces, come into balance. And in order to do that, you have to be able to, and I love that the home card is underneath that, because home is where you can be your whole self. Home is where your whole self lies, resides. Home is where the heart is. And this is what is manifesting. The manifestor card and the realm bridger. What I love this here is that the heart chakra and the realm bridger, because the heart is the bridge between your higher chakras and your lower chakras, your feminine energy and your masculine energy, your non-physical self and your physical self. And so with all of this the lower chakra healing and purging over this past weekend, that was that, again, Christ conscious awakening of our root chakras, of our sacral and our solar plexus, coming into higher dimensions and frequencies of the masculine energy within ourself, within our collective, learning how to reciprocate healthily, learning how to be interdependent instead of codependent or independent. It doesn't have to be, one or the other. It doesn't have to be I'm either hyper independent, I don't need anyone, I'm going to do this all by myself. And it doesn't have to be I'm dependent so much that I can't do anything alone. there is an interdependence, but sometimes we have to look in that shadow and look inside of what is it that we are afraid of. And I'll tell you, like, I did not want to look at some things. And I'm one of the people that will look at things within myself a lot. But there were some things that I just, like, was not wanting to look at within myself. I did not want to go deeply exploring, but internally exploring. But in order for me to step through into this high priestess energy, in order for me to trust that I am, able and coming into this Taurus energy of balance, of stability, of that I am worthy of balance and stability, that I am worthy of receiving, abundance, that I can reciprocate healthily. There is a flow between, that's the balance forces of the yin yang. That's the balance forces of the masculine feminine. I just want to point out, okay, look at the yin yang in this Pisces fish right now. If you can see, there is no light without the darkness. There is no darkness without the light. Right? So there is no yin without the yang. There is no shadow without some light, and no light without some shadow. In the flow between the masculine and the feminine is the receiver, the masculine is the provider. And so to be able to work and balance together, you have to reciprocate. If you're going to receive, how do you reciprocate back? How do you reciprocate back? It can even be even just with a gracious receptivity of a thank you, right? I realized that was something I actually struggled with, of saying just thank you, because again, having to like allow myself to feel worthy of receiving, right? Sometimes we forget that saying thank you is something is actually a reciprocated action. And people actually love, like, people will give more if they are feeling appreciated for what they are giving, and I'm seeing this specifically with the like mother, child, father, daughter, dynamic, because, I honestly like feel like that's something as a child to my mom, and, of like having her done so much for me and for us, like there are things where I just took for granted. And I really had to like humble myself. I mean, this was a very humbling weekend to be like, wow, I really can do a better job at, appreciating my mom's love and support, and releasing the shadows that have been resisting, that love. Sorry for the background noise. So I'm hearing again that maybe that's where that background noise, there is some maybe the background talk, the disempowering chatter, the false belief systems, the pain body, triggered, or the pain body wounds, the inner child wounds that have to be explored, that have to be released, that have to be, reclaimed, so that you can trust, so that you can, here's a fly flying around. So I'm hearing like there, so that you can fly, so that you can have, fly higher above those disempowering thoughts and old wounds and beliefs. So you can trust that you are worthy of receiving. Trust that you can, love your partner, that you can love your parent, that you can love your, ex, even, like that you can love yourself, even if mistakes have been made in the past. Underneath this, my mistakes help me learn and grow. I'm beautiful inside and out underneath that. I'm proud of myself. Like, be proud of yourself regardless. This is that high priestess energy. Be proud of yourself even if you have made mistakes. Trust yourself again. Like, you are still a trustworthy human being. You are still worthy of love even if you have hurt yourself, hurt people, done, made mistakes. That does not mean that you are not worthy of forgiveness and love, and it doesn't mean that they're not worthy of forgiveness or love. Again, that whole like dynamic of feeling like the inner child of maybe if something like having to leave to work, and that could have been a wound as an inner child that prevented love, that prevented trust, that prevented this ability to feel worthy of people's love and abundance. And I will vulnerably say and admit that that is something that I had to work on and deeply explore and have been working through. And I think a lot of us go through a lot of inner child adversity. Some of us don't. Some of us get the blessing to like not really have that kind of, childhood experience of parents, single parents, or, parents who have to work and have to be the mom and dad, and that's great. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other, deep explorations that and shadows that are within. And that doesn't mean that we're wrong if that's, and then we're broken and there's something, wrong with our story if that's the case. But this weekend has been huge about unfurling back to love, allowing our heart to be the bridge between the realms of our feminine and masculine so we can receive and reciprocate healthily, fairly, equally, Libra of the scales of the balance. Once again, and I'm sharing a lot about like the mother-child dynamic because that's something that is really coming up for me this week. But I see how this is all interconnected with even like, the dynamics between divine counterparts and how, again, like we're all mirrors to each other. But it's my mom's a Libra and I'm an Aries. And so, I'm realizing that there's a lot of, that's they're on the opposite sides of the axis of each other. Aries is the me, Libra is the we. And so we have been teaching each other the me and the we. I'm learning how to be more in we, and she's learning how to be more in me, and we're learning how to honor each other's boundaries, and we're learning how to respect each other's requests and emotions, and appreciate each other. And I'm learning how to be able to reciprocate as well in a way that, and it's not just in my mom's relationship. This is what I'm learning about myself in areas in all aspects of my life that I'm like, oh, where have I not really been in Libra state? Where have I been more in Aries about me? And instead of getting upset or judging myself, I'm learning to tap into my high priestess of, just forgiving and radically accepting that part, and then doing my best to balance. Doing my best to balance and to harmonize. I love this pool and spread because, again, I wanted to talk about it from after the weekend, because this is what we went through. This is what said we were going to go through over the weekend, and this is true. We're now stepping through. Our heart chakra is the bridge between realms, and now it's time to step through. I know the light isn't the best because the sun is directly above us, so there's a lot of shadow, but hopefully you're still able to see it okay. And hopefully you're able to hear everything okay. And hopefully this is resonating if it is, and if it's making sense, if it is resonating for you. If it's something that you have been, dealing with or going through, or if you have in the past, like, definitely, this is an important journey. And it's, this week we're going to have a lot of interaction with Pluto, and Saturn. That is a lot of masculine, clearing, a lot of masculine like responsibility of karma, of, just kind of looking back and reviewing and those kind of things. So just be mindful of that. If you haven't already had that big awakening, this week is gonna, it may there, just be mindful of the big emotions, or even just the shadows that are going to be coming up in order to be cleared or released or forgiven or loved and seen and appreciated in its ways. I I was watching a podcast and they were talking about, like, you know, they were being really funny, but they're talking about like making out with your gremlins, like finding, and what they mean by that was like finding the appreciation in your gremlins, because really they're just like wounded parts of your child, of your, self, of your inner child, or maybe even of past soul contracts or past lifetimes. And this lifetime we're back to kind of clear those karmic contracts and ties. We're here to move into higher dimensions and balanced forces. So in order for us to do that, we do have to look and ask our inner child, why are you so sad? Why are you so angry? What is it? And instead of being like, don't do that, just be like, I understand, I hear you, and it's okay. Like, sometimes our inner child just needs validation for the way that they feel. Maybe that's something as a child they never felt they got, right? And so over time, that starts to turn into anger, because that, it's like a child who acts out just to get attention, right? It's like they were not heard when they're not heard unless they are having a big temper tantrum or something like that. So it's something to really look at within yourself, and to give yourself grace and a lot of space and gentle kindness and loving kindness right now, during this time, because we really are shedding. This is a part of the layers of our snake skin that we're shedding for the year of the snake, so that we can truly come into our highest balanced force, so that we can really bring back and bring together our ancient future, our ancient past, and recollect again, collect those parts of us that have been lost in the past, so that we can also, correct karmic contracts and move into new contracts. Right? So I just love this. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I have no idea how long I've been talking. 30 minutes, 33 minutes. So again, if any of this is making sense, I hope that it really does help you. Make sure that you hit this like button on your way in or out, so that other people can also find this message. We're a small and mighty tribe here, as we're healing the heart of a woman and the soul of mankind through conscious love. My mission here is to awaken into conscious love. And so if you would like to be part of my vibe tribe, definitely subscribe. And until next time, my beautiful beloveds, peace and love. Namaste. Bye.